Hello YouTubers, it's Michael here. I'm doing a game collection series and my opinions of what will be rare games for each of the systems that I own. This is the GameCube portion of my collection, and I'll get right into it here. I'll just go through every game that I own. I don't own that many games for the GameCube anymore, so first game I'll show is called Animal Crossing. People know about Nintendo IPs. Just a quick note, this one did come with an Animal Crossing's memory card, which is 59 blocks. So if you try to find it with that memory card. It's definitely an add-on that should be included. Next game I'm going to show is called Baten Kaitos. It's a 2-disc game because GameCube games did not hold that much information on. It's one of the few RPGs for Nintendo GameCube. I thought it was okay, definitely okay. Next game I'm going to show is called Baten Kaitos Origins. It's the prequel to Baten Kaitos, I believe, another 2-disc game. I used to have this one sealed and I sold it just recently because I don't know. I didn't think it was worth keeping sealed, but those are good RPGs for the GameCube, and there aren't many for them. So. Next game is Beyond Good and Evil. This is actually the rarest version of Beyond Good and Evil. These used to be about $30, but it's actually gone down quite a bit. I love Beyond Good and Evil. I thought it was a great game. Definitely underrated. I'm looking forward to Beyond Good and Evil 2 if they ever come out with it. But anyway, next game I'm showing is called Bomberman Generation. I don't think this is like your typical Bomberman type game. I know it's 3D. I guess it looks like it has a 2D portion of it. I don't think it has the manual. No, it does have the manual. But they made Bomberman Generations for GameCube as well. I'm not sure which one is rarer, but I didn't find them too awful much. This next game's kind of rare. I never saw this game that often. It's a fighting game, 3D fighting game called Bloody Roar. They made Bloody Roar, different Bloody Roars actually for each of the different systems, PS2, Xbox, and the like. But it's like Tekken. So if you can find that one for a good price, I'd pick it up. This next game is the crappiest version of Capcom vs. SNK 2. I don't like the GameCube controller for fighting games, but it's what it is. An EO, I forget what EO stands for, but it basically means you can map the moves to your C stick. It makes it a lot easier in some ways, but at the same time, the D-pad's okay, but I just don't like the buttons. But that one isn't as rare. This one is extremely rare. I knew it was rare. I traveled all over GameStop trying to find this, and I've only found one copy. Actually, I found two, and it was really crappy because I wanted it, and the GameStop employee wouldn't sell it to me because he's like, "Oh, that's not supposed to be on the floor." And I already bought that game, and he totally stole it from me. And I know he didn't buy the game. He just didn't know he had it on the floor, and he really wanted it. And it was $10 complete. So I think it's over $100 now complete. So it's a very strange game. You kind of eat other like polygon paper looking animals and stuff. It's not the greatest game or anything, but it is extremely rare. It's one of the few Atlas games for GameCube, and it was only for GameCube. So this is the only way you can play it. So this is definitely a gem for collectors. This next game's kind of an interesting game. I do own the oversized box and dance pad and stuff for it, but it's Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix. And they actually didn't have permission from Nintendo to use Mario, or Nintendo didn't have permission from Konami to use Dance Dance Revolution. One of the two. I never got into the Dance Dance Revolution games, but I thought it was an interesting game. It's got some cool remixes on it, but it's not expensive anymore. It used to actually be $50 used at GameStop. I have no clue why. But anyway, this is called Evolution Worlds. I believe this is the first Evolution remade that was originally for Dreamcast. It might be the second one as well. I don't think so though. But it's one of the few RPGs again for GameCube. It's not a very good RPG, but if you're looking for an RPG, this is it. This is one of them, I should say, and it's not expensive. This next game was an excellent game. It really messed with my mind a little bit, and it was Nintendo's attempt to say, you know, like, hey, we're not just a kids console, because it was rated M for mature, and it was a good game made by Silicon Knights, called Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem. It was a great game. If you don't know about this game, you like either live under a rock or something. But I think it's a very fun game, and every GameCube owner should own it. But this next game was not a very good Final Fantasy game. It wasn't terrible, but it really wasn't a Final Fantasy game to me. It's more action than RPG-ish, but it's still got some Final Fantasy elements to it. Not expensive, but I always like Final Fantasy. That's why I picked it up. This next game was kind of a funny game, only because I used to own a game store, and a friend of mine who owned another vintage game store bought a bunch of these, and he couldn't sell them. So he sold me a box of 23, all with strategy guides. And I paid $6 a piece for them. So if that gives you an idea of how much this used to sell for, I couldn't sell them at $10 a piece back in the day. So, but it's called Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. People know about Fire Emblem. It's a Nintendo strategy, or Nintendo-made strategy tactical type RPG. It's not as well known as their IPs as other series, but it's definitely collectible now. Like I said, I had a hard time selling this one, and I used to, like I said, own 23 copies of this game. So I don't know how rare it is. I know it's expensive now, but again, I've said this before. I don't think Nintendo games are really that rare. Nintendo-made games. This next game is called Ikaruga. This is a cool top-down shooter. Very different. You have to change colors, black and white, based on what your enemies are to defeat them, and you can absorb their shots because, you know, they shoot black and white shots. Very cool game. Very hard. I think this was originally out on the Dreamcast as well, but it's a cool game to own for the GameCube. It's kind of rare. It's always been kind of rare. This next game is a really cool game. This is I really like this game. I really like developer Grasshopper / Suda51. That's called Killer 7. This had some really cool style to it. Very mature game. It kind of messes with your head a little bit, but this is definitely a hidden gem, and I really like this developer. I really like this game. I think most mature GameCube owners should own this game. If they already don't. It's just, I think it's very cool. It's different though, so it's actually not for everybody, but the next game I'm going to show is called Lost Kingdoms. It's I think a card-based type RPG, a little bit in the same sense of maybe Baten Kaitos a little bit. It wasn't as good as Baten Kaitos for sure. The first Lost Kingdoms isn't that rare. It's definitely uncommon. The second one definitely is a lot rare. I only saw a handful of the second one ever. So, I'm glad I picked it up when I did, because GameCube games have shot up dramatically in price. Actually, if you notice, I don't own any Mario games, and that's because I used to sell all my Mario games for $7 to $10 a piece to another game store, because I used to find so many Mario games, and I told myself, I see so many Mario games, I'll just pick them up later. And I sold all my Mario games, and I've waited too long to pick them up, and now they're super expensive for the best-selling games for the GameCube, which makes no sense to me. But anyway, this next game is called Mega Man Anniversary Collection. It's a very cool collection. They also made it on the PS2. Mega Man games are pretty hard now to me. I used to kill them as a little kid, but this has all 8 Mega Mans with an extra game, which is cool. It says it's got 9 or 10 games. I'm not sure what the 10th game is, but that's kind of a cool collection to have. This is in the same genre as Mega Man X, which I love the Mega Man X games. It's got 1 through 6. Yep, with an extra kart racing game as well. I'm a beast at Mega Man X, and I love the Mega Man X series. You know, Mega Man X 1 through 3 came out for SNES. 4 through 6 came out for the PS1, so I'm glad they made this collection. This is definitely the rarest and most expensive out of the Mega Man X collection games. They made it for PS2 as well. So this one's like $50 or $60 complete. So it's a cool thing to have, but they definitely make cheaper versions of it for the PS2. The next game was also a Silicon Knights game that made Eternal Darkness, but they remade the first Metal Gear. and that's Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes. It's a cool remake. They made it from the ground up. It's very good if you like Metal Gear Solid. This is, I think, a good version. I know Hideo Kojima hates this version, but I think it's a cool version. And it'll never be reprinted just because Hideo Kojima hates this version. This deck seems pretty rare. I don't have the manual for it, and they made a Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 Plus, which is a lot rarer than this. But I believe you can only play this online. Like I said, I didn't have the manual. This one's still pretty rare, so if you can find it, I would. I haven't tried to play it in a while, but I believe I couldn't play it before because I didn't have a GameCube internet adapter. This next one's kind of in the same realm, but it's more of a card-based game. I think you can play this one without being online. And that's Card Revolution, Phantasy Star 3. I'm going to say this one's kind of rare. Because I didn't see this one that often either. This is definitely easier to find than online or episode 1 and 2. So, alright, and this next game, it's a Pokemon game. I actually did not like this console version of a Pokemon game. I prefer the handhelds for Pokemon games. It is complete. It's got a weird manual and stuff for it. But they made a GameCube version, actually a console version for this. So, that one's kind of collectible now. This is a collectible game. I didn't find it particularly good for Pokemon games, but that's just my opinion. This next game is called Mystic Heroes. They made it for PS2 as well. It's a Dynasty Warriors. It's like kind of like Dynasty Warriors for kids. Not fantastic, but yeah. And the next games I'm going to show are the Resident Evil games. Nintendo did a deal with Capcom to redo all the Resident Evils. Resident Evil 0 only came out on GameCube though, and you know, they remade Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3. Code Veronica is definitely the rarest and most expensive, in my opinion. And then the best of the series is Resident Evil 4. They made the greatest hits, of course, but you know. But that's part 1 of my GameCube collection. I do own more GameCube games, and I just wanted to fit. I only have about 15 minutes to do these videos before YouTube cuts me off. So, but I'll be doing the next video and uploading it here. So I appreciate everyone that watches, and see you guys later.